Good afternoon, and welcome to the All Hands on Deck show. We are so excited. We are having our debut of the season, and to kick it off, talking about what's going on in Chicago, is my good friend, Commissioner Richard Boykin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Reverend Ackery. I'm honored to be here, and to your listening audience, I'm honored to have this opportunity.
You are making it happen. We're so excited today because this is Chicago, and there's so much going on. Chicago is in a crisis. Chicago is in a crisis, and we want to hear what you got to say. But we're going to talk a little bit to the commissioner about some of the things that's going on. But let me just tell you, as the host of this show, I'm so grateful to bring you greetings from the GSJ Family Life Center. And you can call us today at 312-738-1060. One of the things I want to talk about is Chicago being in a crisis. Commissioner Boykin, we have public safety issues. We have a school funding crisis. People don't have jobs. There's so much going on, and I want to talk about it. It's so much to talk about. I wish I had 2 hours with this man. He's a hard worker. You probably heard about it, Commissioner. You work so hard, you probably didn't hear about the shock jock or the political conservative Bill O'Reilly, who went on the air. He's normally a clown. Bill O'Reilly is a clown. And let me tell you, he got on television, and for several minutes, he talked about how Bruce Rauner and Rahm Emanuel and President Obama have not done anything, anything to stem the tide of violence. He claims that if white people were being gunned down, that the powers to be would find a way to stop the carnage. He said that Rahm and Rauner have failed to protect their most vulnerable citizens. He calls for a state of emergency. That's nothing different from what you call for. We want to hear from that. Then he also mentioned stop depending on Black Lives Matter, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, and even President Obama, because they haven't shown up and they don't care. Well, part of that's not true. President Obama has not shown up, but Jesse Jackson has been here. Al has come in as well, and Black Lives Matter has been on the case. It's a lot to talk about. I want to talk about the $50 million community stabilization bill that you have. But give me your response to what this guy, this typically an idiot who has no sensitivity to African Americans or people that are part of the lower class strata. But even a broke clock is right twice a day. Even if the truth comes out of a hellish mouth, it's still the truth. My good friend, come on, talk to me. Talk to me!
Look, we're in a state of emergency. I'm glad that Bill O'Reilly recognizes that. And I think that others like Governor Rauner, Mayor Emanuel, and others should also recognize that. Just before the show started, breaking news is that 58 additional officers are being sent to O'Hare Airport to help ease the traffic of people waiting in the TSA lines. 58 additional people. Now, they and Senator Durbin announced this.
Sure.
And so they can prioritize, reducing people's wait time in lines at O'Hare. People are virtually dying every single day on the streets of Chicago
every day
and Cook County, and they can't prioritize Homeland Security dollars to protect these individuals from the gangs that terrorize these neighborhoods. 40% of the people are living in fear in the city of Chicago. That is unconscionable. So Bill O'Reilly is right in this instance in terms of being critical of the mayor, the governor, all elected officials primarily, including myself. We have to do every single thing we can to protect the citizens that we represent. And when we fail to do that, Reverend, we're not doing our jobs.
Absolutely. We all have to have some skin in the game, whether you are an elected official, whether you are a parent, whether you're a faith leader. We all have to put some skin in the game. There's a caller. Caller, welcome to the show. You are on with Ira Ackery and All Hands on Deck.
Good evening, Reverend Ackley. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Very good. Good to see you back on the air. I'm glad we're able to enjoy CAN TV from a viewer's perspective calling in. Now, here's my thing, because first of all, I did see the Bill O'Reilly show. I did see it. I was amazed at his candor and how he put it on the table. But here's the one thing I want to say, because this whole thing has caused me to look at it differently. Let's go back to, say, maybe let's say 1980, when crack came into Chicago. It's fair to say that in the city of Chicago, maybe 6 or 7 geographic areas, that's where all the violence is occurring. That's a fair statement. Now, here's what's really bizarre. For 40 or 50 years, between 40 to 50 years, the same 6 or 7 areas have been the same areas where everybody is being shot and killed and murdered in. And so you're trying to tell me the Democratic people that run this city have allowed this to occur for 40 or 50 years? That means that they have not put any prioritization in even trying to deal with it in an honest fashion. That means that they don't care enough about black people to even pretend to try and deal with this issue. We're talking 40 or 50 years. Do you believe when, first of all, we saw how they handled that G8 summit that came here to Chicago and how they mobilized law enforcement. So are you trying to tell me that in 6 or 7 geographic locations, the west and the south sides of Chicago, they cannot get that under control in 40 or 50 years? I mean, that's insanity. So when will we do what we need to do and vote these people out of office?
Okay, I was going to ask you what your recommendation was. Listen, that was a powerful call, great analysis. Let's hear from the commissioner. What's your response?
Look, he's exactly right. There's been 50 years of a lack of investment in certain neighborhoods, certain communities. And we see it, look, on the west side, after the riots of Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination,
Sure.
there are areas that have not been redeveloped. Thousands of jobs have left the west side, headquartered jobs. Sears and Roebuck Company, 10,000 jobs, they left and packed up in the 1970s. International Harvester
True.
left and packed up. Western Electric left and packed up. Brock's Candy Company left and packed up, thousands of jobs.
ANP.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, and so a lot of these jobs, of course, have gone to Mexico, they've gone to China, they've gone to suburban communities. So we have to do a better job of investing in these neighborhoods that definitely and desperately need this investment. We got to do a better job.
Absolutely, and you're doing your part. Come on, caller, talk to me. Welcome to All Hands on Deck.
Hey, Reverend and Commissioner, how are you?
Wonderful.
Doing good.
Excellent. First, you're just talking about the jobs leaving the city and all that. I do agree, but, I think, why are they moving out of the city? The city makes it very difficult. Taxes, fees, just to do anything is very, very difficult. I'm a business owner, and believe me, I know. So that's just one point I wanted to bring up. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, my thoughts are this. The county, the city, the state all have incentives that can bring businesses in, that can help businesses to expand. There's 6Bs, 7Bs, 8Bs. There are different types of tax incentives that help companies not have this enormous amount of taxation. I believe the primary reason why a number of these businesses are leaving is because of the labor costs. And the labor costs are so much cheaper over in China, over in Mexico, where they pay people maybe $1 a day or $2 a day. And they then bring the product back in, ship the product in, and we enjoy cheap prices at Walmart and Target and other places like that. So I think we have to figure out a balance so that we can keep the companies here, and we got to make these communities safe. Look, there's going to be no investment in these communities, manufacturing kind of investment, if these communities are totally destabilized. I mean, no company is going to come because they're afraid that their workers are going to be shot, the insurance rates are going to be too high for them. And so we got to make the community safe, and then we got to bring the investment. Look, they've done a terrific job of investing downtown, the South Loop, West Loop, Up north, there's been a tremendous amount of investment. But on the far west side, for example, just recently, Cook County decided we're going to invest in the old hospital. So we're going to put investment there. We indebted the taxpayers 118 million there, but we're pretty much giving up the land for 99 years. 99-year lease to actually provide for hotels and condos in the medical district. I thought it was a bad deal because the community benefits agreement on that was horrible. It was a sham. It wasn't a real benefits agreement. It was a suggestion to the developer that he hire locally. It excluded ex-offenders. It excluded large parts of the 29th Ward in Austin, where unemployment is 22%, and the 37th Ward. And so,
I appreciate you bringing that up. I was going to ask you about why did you vote against that $500 million renovation project at Stroger, and you were very helpful. These calls are lit up. Caller, we must have struck a fire tonight. Come on, talk to me. Welcome to All Hands on Deck.
Hi, I think I'm going to turn my volume down on the TV here. I think you would both agree we live in one of the most beautiful cities around. I love this town. But you know what the crime just over the weekend on the highway, the Kennedy, by Armitage, Lincoln Park, Gold Coast area, you're getting 2 people shot on the highway. What when people from out of state, they see all this stuff on TV, and they say, ooh, Chicago, I don't want to go there. What's that doing? Tourism, horrible. It's not good for us.
That's why it's very important, sir, that Rahm Emanuel, the elected officials, the governor, and, the President of the United States, there should be some economic investment. We need real renewal. We need urban renewal. We need jobs. That's one of the things that attracted me to Hillary Clinton's campaign. She's talking about on her first day in office or first month in office, $50 billion investment in building up the infrastructure, creating jobs and things like that in the urban communities. That's just a start. It's vitally important. Would you like to add something?
No question about it. Look, these communities have not had this investment in 50 years. There are certain public works programs that we can do. Look, 80% of the homes in the city of Chicago have lead pipes going into the homes. I suspect there are high levels of lead in that water that's coming out of the tap in the city. They've done a number of tests now, but they haven't revealed the results of those tests. But we saw in a number of places around the county and around the state where they have high levels of lead in the water because of the lead pipes that go into these homes. So that's a public works project in and of itself, actually replacing all of the pipes that go into these homes. And of course, another public works project is the Community Stabilization and Anti-Violence Act that I introduced. It is a $50 million investment. $45 million investment into young people, 16 to 24, a jobs program for them, and $2 million for a community policing initiative, $2 million for parenting to prevent violence. I happen to believe that everything begins at home, that, if we can strengthen the home, we can strengthen the neighborhood, and $1 million to create an office for people with disabilities in suburban Cook County.
That's what I wanted to talk about next. You have come up with an innovative plan, $50 million for community stabilization. But also, it also entails a tax.
It entails a tax,
Yeah.
right? A 4-cent tax at the pump on the 6-cent tax that already exists on the motor fuel.
Does it start and stop at a certain point? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
So that 4-cent tax would actually add out to about $28 a year for the average driver. $28 a year for the average driver. And if gas prices go up to $5 a gallon, the tax will go away.
Gotcha.
It would disappear.
Gotcha.
And so we don't expect that to happen. We expect gas prices to remain relatively low. We've seen some up and down and some volatility in the last couple of weeks. But for the last year and a half, we've seen extremely low gas prices.
How is that? Give us an update on how the commissioners have embraced it. Also, this commissioner, he didn't just say, you guys step up with a tax. He says, let's lead the way. Commissioners, let's give 10% of our salaries back into the this plan.
Well, 10% would be less than what we were called on them to do. I asked for commissioners to give up $10,000
$10,000
of their salary. Commissioners.
I guess I was thinking about tithes. Yeah, our churches, for those of you who are not Christians, 10% is the tithe.
And
That's us from the church.
I encourage you to do the tithe. That's important. Let me tell you, God will bless you if you give the tithe. But let me say, so we ask commissioners to give up $10,000 to actually put your money where your mouth is. If we're asking taxpayers to do a little bit more, then there ought to be some shared sacrifice. And so I did this in the spirit of shared sacrifice. We introduced the resolution. It didn't get a second. I expected it to die.
Sure.
And so nobody would second it on the floor. And so it died last Wednesday. But on Thursday, I actually took a letter to the comptroller's office and CC President Preckwinkle and others, and I actually gave $10,000 of my salary.
Awesome.
$5,000 to Malcolm X College, $5,000 to Chicago State for internships.
Man, this
for
is
young
awesome.
people.
Listen, we have another caller. Caller, thank you so much. Won't you tell us what you're calling about? You got a comment or a question?
Well, it's two comments. The first comment, Commissioner, let me just thank you from the bottom of my heart for your personal sacrifice and donating the money to those colleges. That's a tremendous effort. Thank you very much, sir.
You're
But
welcome.
here's my point. It speaks to my point, actually. Now, we still don't have a budget in Illinois. Colleges are laying off people. They're scheduled for closing. Disproportionately, black colleges are being impacted, or colleges with the most black enrolled students. But here's the one thing that still remains, even though we don't have a state budget. Everyone's getting paid.
Yep.
So what Bruce Rauner needs to do is he needs to stop paying all the legislators, just like the last governor did, until we can achieve a budget. Once they stop getting their money, then I'm sure we'll get a budget very quickly. But can you imagine, not only are we getting murdered in the streets, but just can you tell me where in Illinois there's a bright shining light? Thank you.
Well, here's the deal.
Thank you.
Here's the deal. So, and I agree with him that until there is a budget, people shouldn't get paid. But as you know, Governor Quinn tried that, and it wasn't successful because it was deemed unconstitutional. And so even the comptroller now has come up with an idea where she would make them wait a couple of extra weeks for their paychecks. I agree with that. Make them get in line like the creditors, like the vendors. But here's the thing that people don't know. The credit unions and the banks down in Springfield will actually make sure that the folks get loans to cover their checks, because they know that they're going to get their checks, and so they'll advance them loans to cover their checks. So they really don't have a lot of pressure on them in terms of finances to get a deal done.
I want to revert back to some of the comments that Bill O'Reilly mentioned. He mentioned about bringing the National Guard into our communities because of all the violence. Now, there's been a lot of controversy. There's some well-meaning people who are totally, I mean totally, against the National Guard coming in as an occupying force until the violence subsides. But let me just tell you, I used to feel that same exact way. But this violence is out of control. So I'm kind of wavering, but I really don't know if I want to bring the National Guard in. I mean, because do I really want to live under this type of occupying force? Do I want to be under siege? But nevertheless, I guess if they don't come into the community, I'm living in fear. And my wife, I'm afraid when she's coming and going, and when my kids are coming and going. So, give me your take. It's very controversial.
I'm totally opposed to the National Guard coming in. I don't think that people should have to live in militarized zones.
But now you called for a state of emergency.
I did.
And everybody interpreted that.
No,
that you
they
meant
did.
that.
Right, but the reason why I call for a state of emergency is to free up some federal funding so that we can get additional resources.
Awesome.
Like the Department of Homeland Security resources. Look, we haven't tried everything that we can. We got a Cook County Sheriff's Police.
True.
We ought to use the Sheriff's Police in these neighborhoods along with CPD. But CPD has lost total credibility. And a lot of these guys aren't even patrolling. They're afraid to patrol because, according to the mayor, they got the ACLU effect, or they don't want to fill out the cards if they stop somebody. Well, that is totally wrong. If they're not going to do the job of protecting and serving the community, they ought to get out the way.
Absolutely.
And they ought to give up that spot to somebody else. But we got to also use the state police. I mean, we can use the state police. What has miffed me about this whole thing is there's no coordinated strategy.
Absolutely.
So, look, if I'm the person in charge, I'm going to sit down with the mayor, I'm going to sit down with the governor, I'm going to sit down with the county board executive, President Preckwinkle,
Absolutely.
and I'm going to say, let's come up with a coordinated strategy. One of the callers is right. This crime is locked in certain communities. It's only
phones are
about
lit
10
up.
or 12.
Thank you so much. Caller, real quick, state your comment.
I'll be real quick. Einstein said, if you keep doing something the same way and expect a different result, then you're insane. So we've got to have a state of emergency. We've got to have the National Guard. Hey, look, the violence is ramping up to the point where there are shootouts on expressways. We're going to have some real serious change when someone white and some type of prominence gets murdered in the
All right, racism still lives. Thank you so much. It really does.
But could it be, Reverend, that this level of violence is an opportunity for people to move out of their community and basically give it up? Could it be depressing home values, right?
True.
Because the people can't sell their homes. So they basically virtually give the homes away. Then when the development comes further west, right, the whole neighborhood's changed.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
I'm just suggesting.
No, these are good things to present. This National Guard piece, I want to go back to that again. Glad you made that, very clear. But by the same token, when the National Guard comes in, it doesn't always mean that police are going to be, or law enforcement people are going to be all over your house. The National Guard also has other resources, right?
No, but what it means is that, one, they suspend the Constitution in those areas. So it means that you don't have any.
You got an attorney. He's an attorney too, guys.
So you don't have any constitutional rights. They put a curfew in effect. So that means that you got to be off the streets at a certain hour. And it also means that they take whatever precautions they can. So it means that they shoot to kill. I mean, they come in and they shoot to kill.
So what's different than with the National Guard and some of these guys on the Chicago Police Department? Okay,
Well,
that's another story. Let me ask you one more question. Time is moving so quickly. We're almost out of time. Man, we need an hour, man. We really need an hour. What do you think about President Obama, man? I mean, President Obama has been very inspiring, and his symbolic rise has been great for African Americans. But man, it hurt me so bad when he underscored the fact, Bill O'Reilly that is, that Obama goes other places when there are tragedies. But he hasn't come home. He hasn't come home. Please help me. Help me with that.
What I will tell you is this, is that you're right on the symbolism of his election as the first African American president. But then when you look at the unemployment rates that rage in African American communities, unemployment at the level of the Great Depression
Sure.
in many communities, we've lost a lot of ground. And so I'm not focused on what color the person is in office. I'm
Me
focused
either.
on what they're doing.
That's where I'm at now.
And if they're not doing the stuff that we need them to do, then I don't care whether they're black or white. We got to hold them accountable. And that's the same in these wards, and that's the same in the state legislative districts and the county board districts. If the person's not delivering for the community, you have to get them out of there.
That's right.
Yeah,
I'm at a point,
organize.
who cares about color anymore? Clarence Thomas, who's as a justice for the Supreme Court, he's black, but he's been a sellout. Nothing but a sellout. Listen, it's been a great joy. We are out of time. We're going to have you back again because big news has taken place. The mayor is talking about disbanding IPRA. We led that fight.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Now we got to make sure that they fix it and they have an independent civilian review board in place made up of citizens. We don't want any window dressing. All right? Thank you so much. You've been listening to and watching All Hands on Deck. Thanks so much. God bless you. We'll be coming right back at you next week. It's been a blast. Commissioner Richard Boykins, Ira Ackery. Peace.